Thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Various and Numerous podcast, a Bryer.io production. Special thanks to our sponsors, as always, Thunder Games. Thunder Games creates games that integrate Bitcoin and process payments via the Lightning Network and run their own node. If you wish to connect, their public key is available over at Thunder, THNDR.games/. You can also check out their social media over there, and a link to their Telegram is provided. Thunder Games are making mobile games which enable players to win Bitcoin for free while using the Lightning Network to send prizes. I love to see what Thunder Games is up to and the advocacy of Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. So check them out, thundergames.com or thunder.games. The Bob Shop. The Bob Shop is the most diverse blockchain and crypto clothing store that I've come across on the web. They have it all: privacy coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bexy Exchange, Mimblewimble, hoodies, hats, shoes, tees. It's all over at bobcrypto.co. Zen Sports is a peer-to-peer decentralized application built on the Icon blockchain that enables players to set their own games, lines, and more using blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. Players can get in and out of games with fiat or crypto and enjoy gambling from the comfort of their own homes with smaller fees than centralized bookmakers and casinos. Visit zensports.com and check them out. Make sure to gamble responsibly as always, and ensure gambling is legal in your jurisdiction. Lucio Paletti is a digital artist and self-described propagandist known for his iconic Bitcoin artworks. Lucio's number one goal is to spread the message that Bitcoin is better money. Check out luciopaletti.com. That's LucioPoletti.com. And he is the artist that created that beautiful Andy Warhol on the wall. Flashcoin. Flashcoin is a reinvention of Litecoin, built to scale for worldwide commerce and fast enough to handle everyday transactions. The flexible and easy to integrate core code allows exchanges and wallets to add Flash to their platform within hours. With settlement time of around 5 seconds and consensus within 2 minutes, anyone, anywhere can use Flash Mobile Wallet as easily as cash or credit card. Visit flashcoin.io and check out their map on there that allows you to see merchants around the world and providing, goods and services like the free market was intended, peer-to-peer, voluntarily. And remember, nothing written or spoken on Bryer.io should be interpreted as financial or investment advice. Always do your own research. You are the captain of your own ship. You are in control of your financial sovereignty. Episode 30 of the Various and Numerous podcast with my good friend Philip Kennedy here of Kennedy Financial. He still has his YouTube channel up there, but he's not doing the everyday broadcast anymore that he brought to us for a few years, I believe. And then he's also a huge Bitcoin and Litecoin bull. So he's got a wealth of knowledge on the market. So it's good to talk to you again today, sir.
Yeah, you too, RL. I consider you a friend that I've never met in person. We got a lot in common. So it's good to see you again. And I haven't been doing many interviews lately, like you said, mainly because, well, for reasons that we'll get into as we go along here. But it's nice to finally sit down with you again.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, taking your time to come on the show. Let's get straight into it here. Let's do a quick market rundown of what's going on in crypto. Then we'll go off into some poorer topics and then back to crypto. Bitcoin 15,782 up 3.24%. Ethereum 5.52% in the green, 470. Link 1319 up 2.44%, and Litecoin hanging out at $60 up, not hanging out, up 3.49%. So it's about to break that. I was looking at the Litecoin chart yesterday. It looks like it's broken out. It's about to make a move to $70 here pretty quickly, I think. So good news for you. You're the Litecoin guy. What do you think real quick about this move today?
Well, I think it's long overdue. Last time you and I got together, I think we were a little more optimistic about where we would be by now. But we're in this for the long game, I think, just like a lot of your viewers and listeners. So there's really no cause for concern. Frankly, if you're thinking a decade out, these short-term moves don't even really matter. You turned me on to Michael Saylor, and I watched his interview, and I think if folks want to become wealthy like Michael, then you really need to do you really need to think decades out rather than these short-term ups and downs and really what's the most volatile asset in the world. So I'm not worried that we didn't get to, 2x the 200-day moving average by September. I think we're going to get there sooner rather than later. I think with some of the recent announcements that we've all been made aware of, that 2021 is going to be a pretty big year. So, I mean, think about it. If you were an OG, right, and you bought Bitcoin at $30 and you watched it fall to $2, if you really believed in it, you were buying all the way down, you were buying all the way back up. And within a few years after that, you were probably a Deca millionaire or more. Will Bitcoin create more Deca millionaires in the coming years? I think they will, but it'll only be because folks went all in and they had a lot of money to begin with. I don't think you're going to see guys, unless they're buying alts and speculating on things like Link at 50 cents and going all in. I don't think you're going to see people making that kind of life-changing money again. On the other hand, I do think in the coming 18 months, you're going to see younger guys who are able to retire with, a couple $1 million
right,
because they bought at 4 and they sold at 60 plus. And then they're going to finally do things that they really like to do rather than working for the man. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I don't disagree with you there. I think the days of putting in $100 and becoming a multimillionaire are definitely over. But I think like you hit on, the alts, there's a couple good alts you could get into and still make quite a bit of money. But I wanted to hit on democracy real quick because it's kind of hard to ignore what we're in right now. And I actually, I want to try to mesh this all together. This Bitcoin mania that we seem to be hitting on. I think we're up like 5-6K since the last time you and I talked, I think. So it's like Bitcoin's really exploded in the last 50 days. What do you make of this entire election process? I sort of already have a hint, but what do you think about it? And then if you could tie it into, Bitcoin and whether or not do you view this? I've been thinking about this a lot. Do you view people this price, the rise in price in the last few months, especially as sort of is it just time in the cycle again for that to happen, or is it a combination of it being time in the cycle to happen again and people being looking for some sort of like set of rules? Like we live in this like. With democracy, we live in such a, positive law society and, things change on a whim. Are people just looking for something that is like fixed and what you're getting into all around? Or what do you think on that?
Well, let me take you back to 2016. I first heard about Bitcoin in 2011, but like most people, I totally blew it off. And frankly, even if I wanted to buy it, I wouldn't have known how to. So it wasn't until the mania of late 2013 when I became familiar with guys like Eric Voorhees and Trace Mayer, that I started to think, hey, this thing is pretty serious. But then it imploded, right? Don't buy Bitcoin because it always goes up and then it falls. That's kind of the meme that we've seen come about during the manias. So it was like 2015, 2016, I see it pumping again. And I realized, you know what? I missed out on things like Google and Facebook. There are lessons to be gained here that you really need to identify the technology that's going to be adopted early on and become a true believer if you're going to have any big gains from it. So I started to educate myself. One of the things I found was this TED Talk, and it was like a 10-15-minute speech this guy gave about decentralization and blockchain technology and how it was going to evolutionize the world. Mm-hmm. And one of the examples he used, in addition to talking about the Internet of Money, Bitcoin, was how blockchain technology would be most useful in elections because it would give us transparency. It would allow us to have an open ledger and identify individuals. Hey, did that person actually cast their vote, and on what day and by what method, and what party were they affiliated with, right? Can you imagine how nice that would be to have right now in this debacle of a national election? Regardless of the outcome, no one's going to believe that it was valid and fair. So if we had transparency like we do with an open, decentralized, trustless ledger like Bitcoin, then I think it would give more credibility to the system. So isn't it ironic that in the wake of what I believe to be the most fraudulent US presidential election ever conducted in history, we have Bitcoin pumping, and still only like 1.5% of the US population even owns any, right? And if they do own any, it's probably like a tiny little bit through their Cash App wallet. I think my buddy sent me an article saying like the average Bitcoin wallet holds like, 0.1 Bitcoin. It's a minuscule amount. So
right now it is, yes.
yeah, it's a minuscule amount right now. I did hear, and I hate to quote this guy because I don't, let's just say his first name is Jeff, and he has a big YouTube channel.
Okay.
He said, one day if you have one Bitcoin, you're going to be like the wealthiest person that anyone knows. And if you have 10, you'll be like a billionaire. I think he's right there. But it's just really ironic to me that in a world where you can't even trust our fellow Americans to count ballots, here is the one thing you can trust: this open, transparent, decentralized ledger, immutable to change. And that's why it's going up. People who understand Bitcoin are in head first because they realize in a world where you can't trust anybody, you can hardly trust relatives and extended family. And I'll talk about that in a little while. You can trust one thing. You can't even really trust the gold market. If you have gold in your hand, you can trust that. You can feel that. But can you trust that ounce of gold? And I'm a guy who's got a coffee mug that says "Make Gold Money Again," right? I know that some of your audience probably think, "Oh, that's a relic of the past, and it's all Bitcoin." You know what? I'm starting to be with you guys. Now, I will say they're complimentary, but you can't even trust the price of gold. If you go to the US debtclock.org, they allege that based on M2 money supply, that gold should be like well over $5,000 an ounce. But here it is, it's sitting at 2. So that's why we keep coming back to this topic, man. That's why you based your show on it. In a world where you can't trust anything, including an election for the most important political position in the world, there's one thing left we can trust, and that's Bitcoin.
Absolutely. And like you noted there, you didn't say exactly the bank's doing it, but we know that JP Morgan just paid $1 billion fine for spoofing just in case people aren't caught up on the other markets, gold and specie money and silver and stuff. They just paid $1 billion fine for spoofing the markets again on the precious metals. So it's not a coincidence that these are the people that have been telling you for a decade that over a decade that Bitcoin is a scam, while they were, I'm pretty certain. I'm not going to say 100%, but it's. I think there's been a lot of people come out and say, there's proof that they've been buying Bitcoin, or maybe they even admitted it at this point. I think maybe they admitted it. I know they came out recently and compared it to gold. So I mean, it's odd. The writing is on the wall. And really the news I wanted to share next, and you sort of led me into this nicely, is like now we see the PayPals of the world coming in here. You and I had a quick talk about this through Messenger the other day about whether or not we knew this was a big story, but whether or not we were sort of we didn't know how big this was going to be, and all this kind of coming on the heels of the Michael Saylor. I wanted to play this real short clip of Michael Saylor on Hedgeye. I think it's Hedgeye or Hedgie.
Hedgeye TV.
You can call it, yeah.
On the other hand, here's the thing I think about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the first software network in the history of the world that can pull monetary energy. So these Bitcoiners have figured out something that is really a thing of beauty and extraordinary value. They're pulling pure monetary energy on a network. And if I take $100 million and I put it into Bitcoin, it could sit there for a decade, like in a battery. It won't bleed out. You're not losing 2 to 4% a year. And I can put it in the palm of my hand, and I can move it around the planet for a few dollars in a few minutes. And we've never in the history of the world figured that out. And so it's very early on. I like monitoring. I like software networks that are worth more than $100 billion that are 50x bigger than their competitor, that are going to eat the world, that 99% of the world doesn't agree with me on. So
I think that's a pretty cool clip there, Michael Saylor. He's got such a fresh way of like explaining this stuff. I don't think he's been around to like hear the same narratives. Maybe, some of this of our narratives kind of, we're in this like echo chamber, whatever, of like, us talking about crypto a lot. And it's just like, he brings like this fresh take on the entire thing. What do you think about, do you think like what he's talking about with your life force and your, Bitcoin is this way to harness energy? Is it inevitable that all fiat flows to Bitcoin then in the end? I mean, is more and more obviously brilliant people, you don't become a billionaire like that without at least, unless you're working on Wall Street or something like that and doing something dishonest, you don't have that kind of wealth generally. What do you think about that? Do you think that like more and more people are just going to view this as they have to become more educated on markets and money and stuff as inflation goes up, and the U.S. went $7 trillion further into debt this year, something like that, just with the stimulus packages and stuff. What do you think about like more and more people, like average Joes, finally figuring it out?
Yeah, I'm with Trace Mara on this. I think he originally described it as the fiat black hole, to which all government currencies will eventually be accounted for. And I'm with him on that. That sounds right, because you and I know, and this is going to be a bold statement. I said it on my show once before, and I really ticked off a lot of the gold and silver bugs, but it's true. Bitcoin is now the hardest money in the world. And the reason it's the hardest money is it's because it's the greatest store of wealth. It is the most secure network in the world. It's brilliant in its construction. The hash rate, the difficulty rate dips every time it gets a little bit too congested. That's a brilliant part of it. Decentralized, immutable, trustless. It's got all these attributes that we really have needed throughout human history. And one of the frustrations that I have with the no coiners is that they'll be talking to you over Zoom. Their Ring doorbell might go off in the middle of the interview. They probably have an Amazon package getting delivered multiple times a day. And they're sitting there telling you, hey, this is just a fad. This isn't here to stay. And it's like, have you not learned any lessons over the last 30 years? Like, the internet has evolutionized humans and the way we do things. And it was only a matter of time before something developed that was going to change money. And It was going to be done over some kind of internet protocol. And that has happened in the form of Bitcoin. The problem they have is, well, how can this thing be money when it's so volatile? I could buy it one day and it might, you mentioned those prices, RL, it's approaching 16,000. How do I know it's not going to be 14,000 by the end of the day? And it's like, well, of course, because it's a tiny dinghy in this sea of financial assets. And coupled with that, you've got young guys like us, well, more like yourself. I'm an older guy now, but folks can tell in the video. They're making life-changing money. If you had $1 billion because you bought Bitcoin at $30, don't you think you're going to have a price at which you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to sell. Today's the day. I mean, Charlie Lee had that price for Litecoin and he got a lot of flack. But at some point, when you have $1 billion, you're going to sell because you've been through several bubbles. And that's going to hand your Bitcoin or altcoin from a strong hand like us to a weak hand noob who just heard about it at the Thanksgiving table and they finally downloaded the Cash App, or they finally realized in early 2021, hey, I can buy Bitcoin and altcoins through PayPal, which I know we're going to talk about. Well, why don't we talk about it now? 26 million merchants, 346 million customers. I don't think we can overdo or sensationalize enough the impact that this is going to have on the crypto market. I really, Coinbase was nice. Once Coinbase started adding altcoins, that was nice. Mm-hmm. The Fidelity news was nice. I think that this makes all those previous announcements pale in comparison, because now you're giving access to people who never even considered it before, right? We're still at 1.5%. It's nothing. You know, you and I, even though we don't feel like it based on our wallets, we're still relative OGs compared to everybody else that's going to be coming on board. Yeah, Michael Saylor buying at 11,000 is an OG, you know? and he says he doesn't feel like it. Yeah. But you know, if you and I, we've been in this market since 2017 at least, so we're OGs by comparison. Sure, we wish we were in since 2011, but I think down the road, when you have a long time horizon, people buying on PayPal in early 2021 are going to be OGs someday. They're going to tell their kids, yeah, I was buying Bitcoin in the thousands. When I bought Bitcoin, it only had, 5 digits. It didn't have 6 or 7. So the news is huge. The idea that we're now going to open up this market to a exponential, more greater number of people is fantastic. And then you take it a step further. What is PayPal most known for? It became the de facto middleman for eBay purchases. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I've been saying ever since I finally figured out Bitcoin watching that TED Talk. We need a system that can be an accounting information system for all the goods and services in the world. And there is probably, other than, Amazon, no other better accounting form than eBay, right? And the biggest auction site in the world. So although I've now realized that PayPal is going to charge a nominal fee, it's going to be something like 2.3% for purchases under $1,000 and 1.5% for purchases over. That is going to be meaningless in the scheme of things. When you have 10, 20, 50x gains, you're going to want to spend your newfound wealth. Maybe not with Bitcoin, maybe with some of the altcoins that they've decided to include, like Bcash, Litecoin, Ethereum. But this is huge. I had guys on my show back in 2017, the Nouveau Bitcoin Riche. One guy was affiliated with Nexus. He retired at the age of 32. He told me he was buying Cadillacs with Bitcoin, home appliances with Bitcoin. Yeah. And that's what's going to happen. The people who were able to perform economic calculations in advance are going to spend their newfound wealth. And this is going to be a method to do it. And that 1.5% fee is going to be meaningless in the whole scheme of things. So if it doesn't come across RL, I'm pretty excited about this news. And I think, we talk about 4-year Bitcoin cycles. I think that's what's going to take us to the 65K plus price target that you and I have been talking about for a while.
That's been my target for a long time. I will say that I think that centralization in so many regards is just like about to be washed out. That's, this is like the bend the knee moment for PayPal. You mentioned about getting into crypto and stuff. I found, one of my first things I wrote was on Medium blog in 2014. I was posting about Bitcoin and stuff on Facebook on a prior account, which is since gone, but 2009 and stuff. I don't want to get back in there and just mess with that. But anyways, just this week, somebody reported me, or last week, or in the last couple of weeks, I don't get on Medium a lot because I have my own website now, Bryer.io, where this podcast will be. But it's just funny that somebody would report somebody just writing. I was a top writer in finance on Medium, and now it's just like gone. So I was like lucky that I could still access those articles, and I went back and screenshotted that one. But it's just like we're in this era now of like they're just gonna be able to like shut you down whenever they want. I feel like with more and more, and this is one of the reasons you got off Twitter. If you want to just talk about, if we wouldn't just mention that real quick, is that this old world of censorship is just it's getting worse, and it's forcing us into other avenues, and like that's what the dollar is. It's just a form of centralized garbage money. It's only money by decree. So I think people are gonna find more and more avenues, whether it's Bitcoin, whether people just want to invest in Link is still like this isn't financial advice, or Litecoin. Litecoin still advertises like, or it's a medium of exchange. Link is more like investing in like Apple or something, I would say, something like that maybe. But it's still a token. It's still money. You can still send it around to some degree. So, or a medium of exchange. So it's interesting what we're going to see here. And I wanted to ask you, this is important to me because I'm seeing more and more big government people come into crypto. And I saw, I don't know if I want to say his name. He's got a big following. He's a billionaire investor. Anyways, he was talking about the blue wave on Twitter this week. And I was just like shaking my head. I'm like, really, man? Like the blue wave? And I'm apolitical or, agnostic, politically, anarcho-capitalist. But what do you make of liberals in crypto? Are they just completely like lost, or they just don't understand what we're doing here, or what? Are they just, I don't understand it.
Well, the dirty little secret with every liberal, I think somebody in Idaho put it best. I was reading some blog or a newspaper article about folks in Idaho. There's even bumper stickers around there saying, hey, don't California my Idaho. And the idea is that liberals will ultimately always flock to prosperity and leave their tyranny behind, because like a locust, right? Once they've devoured everything, they need to move on to greener pastures so that they can steal from you. And this cycle just repeats itself time and time again. I mean, look at Venezuela as a case study of what locust liberals do to any society that has any possibility of wealth accumulation. So that's a very pessimistic statement, right? That's kind of why I've popped smoke and mostly disappeared. But in the meantime, we've got this ability to decentralize our lives, mainly with the form of Bitcoin. There will be places where guys like you and I will congregate. And unfortunately, in the long run, that's going to attract liberals. But in the short run, I think just look at a place like Wyoming, right? 500,000 citizens. You've got Charles Hoskinson moving his business there. You've got other crypto influencers doing God's work there. It's, I think, going to become a beacon for the rest of the country. And unfortunately, what you're going to have is, people trying to California their Wyoming.
Right.
And hopefully that's really why, just on a side note here, I think that if you leave a state that's completely bankrupted by liberal policies, like if you move from California to a state like Wyoming, I don't think you should be allowed to vote for 10 years, to be honest. You know what? Maybe I don't even think you should be allowed to vote ever. Peter Schiff talks about the idea that he would rather have good government than his vote. And at one time, you needed to be a stakeholder. Let's ignore the whole emotional portion of race,
right,
or gender. You needed to be a stakeholder to have a vote. There was a poll tax, you had to be a certain age. You had to be a landowner, right? I've equated it to, if you went into Walmart as a shopper and you're pushing around a cart, do you think you have any right to decide who's on the Walmart board of directors and you should be able to cast a vote? No, that's, of course. And you're laughing because that sounds absolutely asinine. You contribute nothing. You're just shopping, right? And that's really what a lot of Americans are. They're nothing more than shoppers, or in fact, they're worse. They're just there to steal things off the shelves. They don't work for a living. They vote for a living.
Right.
And that's unfortunately where we're at. I'm optimistic, though. There will be pockets of places where guys like you and I can go. My personal opinion and my advice to your audience, begin to decentralize your life. And unfortunately, that means taking steps from the tech tyrants. You need to start getting as far away from these platforms as possible. When I think the final straw, and I was already fed up with Twitter, but the final straw is when they started, I guess, labeling Trump's tweets as this is propaganda or whatever. They deleted
abusive in some way.
Right. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I went ahead and deleted my Twitter account. and opened a Parler account. That's the only social media account I really have. And I just get on there to post my personal opinions on Bitcoin and data that I keep on a daily basis. Deleted my Facebook accounts, rarely use Google, don't use AdSense, AdWords, anything like that. I merely use YouTube as a means to upload my videos and then get them transferred over to library. So it's a free service.
Mhm.
But at this point, I've realized that you and I, we're not going to gain any traction in this space. They're not going to allow our message to organically grow. And it doesn't surprise me that your Medium article was taken down. Unfortunately, that's why we need things like library, right? So that
they X'd my whole account. They didn't even email me.
Right.
I violated terms somehow, allegedly, and it was under investigation / terminated. It said it was like / it was like, so somebody hasn't or has looked. So I'm just like, all right, no more of that. I'll just post to Hive, the Hive blockchain, and my own site and stuff. But yeah, I like what you said about democracy. I actually put a video out. I don't even know if you saw this last week. We didn't talk about this before we got on here, but about property owners being allowed to vote. And that was the first thing somebody said, was they brought up race. And I'm like, how racist are you to think that only white people own property, or only men own property in 2020? Like, you are projecting race into like it has nothing to do with that. And I didn't bring race up once in the video. It's just like amazing to me where we are. Like, you can't make any sort of logical argument. It's all about feelings.
One of the biggest property owners, he owns one of the nicest plots of land here in Northern Virginia. I've driven by his residence a few times, is Robert Johnson, the founder of BET. He's got a choice piece of property that anyone can roll past in Middleburg, Virginia. And it looks like a billionaire lives there. He's got his own security guys outside, huge fence. The fence alone must have cost him like 100 times the average American home, right? and the idea that, someone would immediately apply the way someone looks to the notion that you should be a stakeholder in this country before you have a say in where we're heading is preposterous. Robert Johnson recently came out and said, look, I don't understand why people who happen to be black also happen to support the Democrat Party in droves. What are they doing for you? They're doing nothing for you. They make you the same phony promise every 2 to 4 years. You get on board, and it just perpetuates the welfare state. And your personal life gets no better at all. So really, it was kind of this past year has been rough for everybody. But that was also the finishing move for me, is when you say something like, hey, George Floyd had 3 times the lethal amount of fentanyl in his system. And then you get a whole bunch of backlash from even family members. That's when I realized on a personal level that I'm done. We've got the former First Lady coming out this week saying, hey, we had 70 million Americans support this racist, abusive person. And I think now we all realize, hey, we have these irreconcilable differences, which I've talked about on my show numerous times. It's time for us to peacefully go our separate ways, and let's see what works. Let's let the red states form their own federal government, a limited government, where all we're really concerned about is our defense and interstate commerce. And then let the blue states erect their tyrannical regimes and see who's jumping over which fence, right? Where will the locusts go? And the locusts are leaving California. They're leaving New York. I mean, it's obvious in the numbers. We know what works and what doesn't. So let's have a peaceful separation, and then we'll let folks decide. But we need to erect some barriers in the meantime. You can't just leave California and come to Wyoming and start voting right away.
Absolutely. I hadn't really thought about the voting aspect of it, them being able just to vote, leave with their feet, and then you get there, and then they can turn Texas into California or whatever.
Or Mexico. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty depressing where we are in that regard. And I think you and I both know the reason why they can't let the producers leave, because if the capitalists leave, there's no capital to reappropriate or redistribute. So yeah, that's the problem. That's the reason we are not allowed to leave peacefully so far. Let's talk about. Well, let's just talk real quick. Do you see a potential secession movement if this election is still in limbo as far as I'm concerned? I don't think Trump's gonna take this line down. Like I said, I didn't vote. I don't vote, but I think that Trump probably would have won if there was no sort of interference in this election. I mean, Joe Biden didn't even go out and campaign, and he got more votes than Barack Obama, I believe was the stat that I saw. It's just the whole thing just seems completely unbelievable. Do you see any sort of secession attempt?
Well, first and foremost, I'll drop a major bomb on your show. I still believe, and I know I'm in the vast minority here. I think I'm probably in the 5th percentile. I still think Trump's going to win.
So do I.
And here's why I think that. I think he's going to win by 9 electoral votes. He's going to get Pennsylvania. That's the major prize. That's the biggest swing state. He's going to win it when the dust settles. He's going to get Georgia. I think, has North Carolina already been given to him? Alaska. Sure. I don't even know. I don't pay attention because I don't want to get angry.
Right.
He should have gotten Wisconsin and Michigan because it just, it's the age old thing. And here's the thing that I keep telling friends and family who don't believe me. If this happened all by itself, we could say, wow, you know what? I guess he just really upset a lot of people. And those mail-in ballots, people sent them in droves. And every single one of those is a truthful ballot. We don't even have to look at them. But in a post-Russian collusion, Stormy Daniels, tax returns, phony impeachment, COVID lockdowns, BLM race war environment, we can only surmise that this was the last Hail Mary. What we're going to do is we're going to identify those swing states that he won last time. We're going to flood the major metro areas with phony ballots at the 11th hour after 2 p.m., after everyone's gone to bed. Yep. No one will see the suspicious guy pulling up all by himself, backing a truck in with all these votes that just appeared out of nowhere.
Miraculously 140,000 in a row for Biden or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Like ridiculous numbers.
I'm no mathematician. I'm not an expert in statistics. I did get an MBA, and there are people who are really smart out there who've already figured this out. Benford's law has been completely violated. And not only that, you don't even need to have graduated from high school to realize that there's some shady business going on. Fox News calling Arizona before North Carolina and Georgia had ever even been figured out. Nobody, the deep state, the media, academics, none of them like this guy, right? They hate him. They hate him with a passion. The error they've made is that guys like Joe the plumber can see it. It's as plain as the nose on my face. Everyone realizes this was the final move. This was what they were willing to do. And I think that even bolsters our argument even more. We cannot share a government with you people. We need to peacefully go our separate ways. If we can't even trust you guys to count the ballots,
right,
then the pretense of living together under this system that has enormous consequences on our personal liberty and our individual rights is out the window. We can't do it anymore. We need to end it. Luckily, we've got Bitcoin, right, so that we can at least opt out on a monetary level, like Michael Saylor was saying there. And by the way, that's a guy who puts his money where his mouth is. I think, as far as I know, after the dot-com bubble burst, he lost more of a percentage of wealth on a single day than like any other human in previous recorded history.
Wow,
and
I didn't know that stat.
Yeah, and he's still in the game, right? He knew.
He's long game. Yeah, yeah.
It's paper wealth. I'm in this for the long game. I'm sure he's made it up many times over since then. This is a way to take your wealth with you anywhere in the world, leave tyranny for opportunity. It might be a small place like Malta someday. I don't know. But they're going to be countries that want to recruit guys like us. Bring your wealth here. Start a business. We'll only charge you a 4% corporate tax rate like Puerto Rico is doing, right? Mm-hmm. This will happen. And unfortunately, you and I will have to flee the United States, which is going to be a lot of ass pain. But you know what? People have fled tyranny for opportunity time and time again.
Yeah,
so,
I think
sorry. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again.
Yeah, I think you're right, because people forget that Americans are like, we're, you know, a lot of us earliest, you trace our history back to the beginning of the country, at least. We're like the, you know, we are the rebels of other countries that like jumped on those ships. Our ancestors jumped on those ships and tried to, you know, come here for freedom. And we're, you know, we're looking for freedom too. So
right.
The people that are really looking for freedom know that freedom's, you know, there's not a lot of freedom left here. So we're going to be making the move for the same reasons they did, you know, potentially in the future if things don't change, if there's not some sort of peaceful separation.
And it's going to be easier than ever to do. You're not going to have to like pay an exit tax or liquidate your accounts. You're just going to get on a private jet and take your phone or your 12 memorized words and go start a new life. You know, Tim Draper has said, governments need to get out of the control business and they need to get into the service business. It was funny with all this COVID stuff. There was this comedian, he records these videos from his car. And I'm sure everybody's seen him. He's like this angry New Yorker guy.
I know.
And he's like, you know, you told us to stay home. You told us to quarantine. And then, you know, you acted like it was a big deal to give us these stimulus checks. he says without, you know, doing an expletive on your show, it's our effing money. It's our effing money. And he's right. Yeah. It is our effing money. You know, the government doesn't create anything. It just takes from one person and gives to the next. So the U.S. government, like any tyrannical government throughout human history, has forgotten that it needs to be in the service business. It's not in the control business. And now that it thinks that it's in the control business, and it even needs to control who your president is, because that's how important it is for them to really have fingers in every aspect of your life, they are going to learn a painful lesson. And there are ruins throughout the world that are broken edifices to governments who figured this out too late. And unfortunately, I think it is too late. You know, that's why I've become such a huge quasi Bitcoin maximalist. We needed something. Necessity is the mother of invention. We needed something like this so that we could have a way to opt out. And there is no more important way to opt out than with your store of wealth, with sound money.
Phil, you want to set this video up? I'll play a little bit of it here for you.
Yeah. So before I got completely disgusted with my fellow man, I was trying to give people information about what I saw coming, right? So for the last 5 years, 2015 till about a few months ago, I had a YouTube channel, Kennedy Financial, trying to educate folks about the benefits of gold, silver, Bitcoin, Austrian economics, and really just how we're living through unprecedented financial times. The reason a lot of our friends, relatives, neighbors, and loved ones are struggling so much is because we have this centralized fiat system that does nothing but support its cronies in the welfare and warfare state. So that's what I did with this music video. We got Cal and John there from the Libertarian Crusaders podcast. We also got great folks like Naomi, Trace, Jeff Dice to make cameos.
Alan Greenspan.
Right.
You called him up and he was up to jump on.
Yeah. But, you know, that video should have like 6 million views, not 6,100 or whatever there is. It definitely shouldn't have 7 dislikes. But the whole approach we took is like our protagonist. He's struggling with financial bills. He's having an argument with his wife there. He's looking at credit card statements. She's yelling at him. This is what average people are doing. You know, they go to the ice cream shop, they get sticker shock. Man, you know, everything goes up in price, and it's all as a result of the Federal Reserve. You know, they play favorites, they send money to their cronies in the welfare and warfare state, and Joe the plumber is struggling to make ends meet and paying exorbitant tax bills in the meantime. There's Trace. Meanwhile, you got guys buying yachts, right? Because they're in the NFL. They're part of the bread and circus. You know, they're beneficiaries of the fiat system. So that's what I was trying to convey there. I think we did a pretty good job. Folks should click on it. It's got a catchy tune. And, if you love Bitcoin and you're trying to get someone else to understand it, send them this video and maybe it'll resonate with them. Nothing resonates with somebody better than watching their neighbor get rich, though. And the guys who've been watching your show, I mean, weren't you sending me some stat like 99.5% of every Bitcoin wallet is now in the green?
Yeah, I think that's, well, now the price has gone up. So yeah, it's over 90. It was over 99% at like 13.5 or something, I think. So yeah, it's only gone up, I'm sure now. So we're at multi-year highs as we're on here today. I think I don't think we've hit 16K yet, have we?
Yeah, and I think we've only spent like 30 days in all of Bitcoin's history at a price above where it is right now.
Right, and so, now we're like 110 days into holding a daily candle close over 5 figures, and there's some stats there too, like days over certain like threshold. If you date back, like how many days it took for, I think it was double digits, and then $100, and then once you reach that 100 days, it's like I don't have the exact stat, but anyways, most of the things, I don't want to be hyperbolic, that people look at are all sort of like lining up with stock to flow and everything. Make sure you check out Philip's channel and give him a sub too, because he's still putting out everyday common. I see you putting out some like everyday common guy videos and stuff too, like how to set things up around your house and stuff. I've been enjoying those too, like how to set up an extra TV and things like that in your basement and stuff. So I've been enjoying that stuff too.
Unfortunately, I removed the comments though. Frankly, I don't want to hear from most of you anymore. You've got nothing nice to say. A couple of you, the ones that are nice, usually send you an email. If folks want to send me an email, they can. Phil@philipkennedy.com. That's Philip with 1 L, Kennedy.com. But the vast majority of people just want to shit post, right? And I'm at the point where I really don't care to hear from you anymore. So I'm going to keep it up. I'm going to keep talking about ways that folks can get through the greater depression ahead. It's never going to be, that right now is the hardest time to raise a family. If you're trying to get married and have kids and buy a house, you know what? While we're in the midst here, I just heard a little pop go off on my screen. I got my Coinigy account open. Bitcoin about to break 16,000.
Wow, what timing! I'm glad it hit right there before the alert went off before the show ended. So that's cool that we're on here for 16K. So we've only got about $3,900 to the $3,940 to the previous all-time high that we made in January of 2017. So we're getting close.
Well, let's talk about that real quick because I can update my numbers.
Okay.
So, I just do some basic stats that I've had to learn the hard way. 2017, a lot of us watched us accumulate exorbitant wealth with little down, and then also got to see it evaporate. So there's no better lesson than living through that. And I don't want to live through that again. So just a couple stats. We're sitting at the Bitcoin price.
If you want to, Phil, I don't know if you want to or not.
Do what?
You can share your screen if you want. I just enabled it.
Oh, okay. So we are sitting at a Bitcoin price of about 16,000. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to share my screen here on the fly, but I'll just read off my stats.
Okay.
So we're about 1.5 times the 200-day moving average. Since the modern times, which I consider everything like 2013, late 2013 and after, a 1.5 Mayer multiple gives you, that only happens about 83% of the time or 80% of the time. So we are getting very frothy. And I think that one of the best contrarian indicators is when guys like you and I start to put out more content and get excited on YouTube. So frankly, to your viewers and listeners, this video in and of itself is a contrarian indicator. And I can tell you that because of how much of an evangelist I am about Bitcoin, I start getting text messages from friends asking, hey, is now the time to buy? Those are starting to roll in.
Right.
And I'm quite candid. I say, no, I want you to buy it when it makes you absolutely disgusted and you're worried about losing
$3,800 in March when everybody was bleeding was the time to buy, or $3,100 in February of 2019.
Right, exactly. And by the way, my brother and I put that video out on March 2nd.
That's not financial advice.
Bitcoin was $4,000. So we believe in it. We believe it's not going anywhere. You want to believe in it too, and you want to buy it when it hurts the most. Right now, it probably feels good for someone to buy Bitcoin because they think they're going to make a quick buck. Personally, not financial advice. I think we're going to make a new all-time high. And then I think we're going to repeat the cycle. This is not the, quote, final leg. I think we're going to break 20,000. We're going to fall all the way back to like 10. We're going to get back to a Mayer multiple of 1 or lower. And then that will lead to the 65K plus target in 2021 that you and I have been looking for. I heard an interview with Preston Pish on Stephan Livera's show the other day, and I respect both those guys a lot. Stephan is a little bit too much of a maximalist for my taste, but we'll forgive him for that. I called him on my show, by the way. I interviewed him. I was like, so you think all these altcoins are just going to disappear one day? He's like, yes. I'm like, I don't think so.
I'm not familiar with him. I missed that one. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, he's got a good podcast. Anyways, he's interviewed like all the guys that your audience is familiar with. He had Preston on the other day, who's a smart guy that I respect. And he was making an argument that with this new all-time high, maybe we're just going to run up to $100,000, and that's going to be, quote, the final leg. And this is a term I hadn't been familiar with. I don't think with Bitcoin there's going to be any such thing as a final leg. One day we will reach a multi-trillion-dollar market cap, which will stabilize things. We'll no longer be that dinghy in this rough, turbulent financial ocean. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to happen overnight because OGs, relative OGs like yourself, are going to sell. They're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to take some money off the table because I got a 5-bagger. I bought a ton of Bitcoin at 4, and now it's at 20. I'm going to sell. And so your strong hand Bitcoin is going to go to weak hand people talking about it over the Thanksgiving table. They see it plummet after the new year, and they're just like, sell, I need that money for rent. So this isn't the end. Again, not financial advice. That's my personal take. If folks want to see my numbers, they can follow me over on Parler at Kennedy Finance. And anytime I'm seeing something too frothy or interesting, I'm posting. So not every day, just like, once every couple of weeks.
I don't really disagree with you. I don't think we'll dip that low though. I think we'll probably break all-time high, go to like 28 to 35K maybe. And then I think we'll pull back to like where we are now to 22 something, maybe bounce around, and then early next year start building up towards that 65K target. Well, not too much different from what you said, but sort of, I don't know if we'll get that big. I don't think we'll see a big, that drastic of a retrace, but we could. I mean, that's 50%. I mean, that's really not that crazy, I guess. So
I agree. I agree with you. If we don't get a euphoric pump before the new year, if we do, we're not going to be able to onboard the PayPal customers prior to then. I mean, all they're saying is first Q1 of 2021. Does that mean January 1st? We need new buyers. We need greater adoption. Right now, these are true believers like Michael Saylor, you and me.
It's interesting how that narrative has kind of changed. Now it's like institutional money, and now it's like waiting for like the more normies.
Right. Can I say one more thing about that too? So there was this argument that Preston was making about Michael Saylor that people are going to now start to look at companies because they have Bitcoin positions, and they're sitting on Bitcoin positions that are on their balance sheet. And so then that's an attractive option to get exposure to Bitcoin. I buy this company's stock, and they don't necessarily have to make a profit because they're going to see unrealized gains in their Bitcoin portfolio. For the average Joe, which I assume is like everybody watching your show, you want to hold your own private keys, man. You don't want to invest in another company because they hold Bitcoin. If you do that, just do it because you like the company, and then that's a plus. If you're trying to get exposure to Bitcoin, you need to get a hardware wallet. You need to hold your private keys. You need to memorize your 12 to 24 words. That is the evolutionary technology. You don't want to be messing around with, well, I'm an American and I own this stock and it had capital gains and now I want to move to Malta or, have my freedom back. And so I got to sell. You just want to be able to pop smoke and opt out and leave. So just my personal opinion there. Sure, it's a nice plus,
right?
But I think your primary option is to open a Coinbase Cash App account, whatever you like, Binance US.
Yeah, I think that's
whatever you plug.
That's an important distinction that you just made too, because like Saylor talks about, we keep mentioning him. If anybody hasn't listened to him talk yet, it's really interesting what he has to say about storing your life force. Who do you want to hold your life force? Do you want someone else to hold your life force, or do you want to hold your life force? Seems like an obvious question to me, answer to me. So
yeah, if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Right, exactly. Is there anything else you want to say today, Phil?
Let me check my notes here. It was fortunate that Bitcoin blasted through or almost hit 16,000. It's back to 15,900 as we talked, but I bet you by the time you upload this, it'll be beyond that. Just, don't get emotional. Don't get FOMO. It's easy. When you want to buy, it's probably good to sell. And when you're disgusted, it's probably the time to buy. And I know I had to learn that the hard way. Maybe you too, a little bit, RL. I don't think nobody gets into this market without going through a bear cycle and licking a lot of wounds. But the life-changing wealth that's going to be made and has been made in crypto is still available. And you just have to be smart enough to have a game plan. And folks want to look at my little game plan, just follow me on Parler. Check out the YouTube video that RL showed there of our music video. Share that with somebody. I mean, you can take your pocket change and buy Bitcoin at the grocery store. Sure, it's an exorbitant fee, but the point is everybody should be doing this at this point.
I already know people doing that too. They hit the Bitcoin ATM when they're at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's happening. So
yeah, there's going to be massive civil unrest after Trump's declared the winner. And if he is not declared the winner and Joe Biden's inaugurated in early or late January, then you're going to have a whole lot of average, ordinary, hardworking people who now see this system for what it is. So I no longer worry about red and blue. I'm only worried about my green gains in crypto. And I think that's really where folks need to put. It's pro wrestling at this point. Politics is pro wrestling. Forget about your team. Just worry about yourself. And keep watching and listening to RL's podcast to stay abreast of everything that's going on.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, green. Well, we can call that the color of financial sovereignty, maybe.
I like it. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you coming on, Philip. Everybody, Make sure you subscribe to his channel. He's a guest on here. He's been the most prominent guest so far, appeared the most number of times. I think it's his 4th or 5th time on. So I appreciate your time today, sir. Hang on one second. I'll say goodbye to you.